Well, guess what? We're at it again, this time in Wisconsin. Yes, we bought some cheese out there, but we also found one of the top political cheeseheads, too. Congressman Paul Ryan, the House Budget Chairman, or better known in liberal land as public enemy number one. Put it this way, they'd like to take his budget and use it for scrap paper. The Brody Files sat down with Congressman Ryan outside of Milwaukee, where we talked about the debt, the budget, and his Catholic faith. I thought you'd be late to this interview because you'd be busy throwing Granny off the cliff. But you showed up on time. I mean, what is the deal with the stereotypes that are out there? I mean, you haven't thrown Granny off the cliff anytime recently, have you?
No, we're used to this from the president. Unfortunately, the president doesn't like to offer solutions. He likes to offer attacks. He likes to distort and demagogue, and it's really beneath him, I think. I think this kind of a speech, this kind of activity, this kind of rhetoric from our commander-in-chief, it's really not presidential. He's really acting more like a campaigner-in-chief than the leader we need to get this country on the right track. And that's what's disappointing about all of this.
The political will by these politicians. I mean, do they have the political will to get some of the serious deficit reduction done?
Look, what we're experiencing in America, in Wisconsin, are decades of politicians making lots of empty promises to voters. And those empty promises are going to quickly become broken promises if we have a debt crisis. What we believe we owe the country is the truth and solutions to fix these problems. Because if we have a debt crisis, which is just around the corner, then all those programs that people organize their lives around, their retirements around, are going to be broken promises, and we're going to have severe disruption in people's lives. That's what happens when you have a debt crisis. That's the kind of austerity that is imposed if politicians keep kicking the can down the road and not solving these problems, like what President Obama is doing. So people like myself and Scott Walker, we believe that if there's a problem in front of us, we should solve that problem. And the sooner we fix this problem, this debt problem we have, the better off everybody's going to be. The more likely we can grow the economy, create jobs, get people back to work. The more likely people can have the kinds of benefits that they banked on when they retired. Those are the things that we're trying to secure so we get back to prosperity, back to a debt-free nation, give our kids a higher living standard, which is the American legacy, the American idea. And unfortunately, if we succumb in America to this kind of political attack, then courage will never be exercised again. If Scott Walker's recalled, if we can't persevere on these budget reforms, then what other political leader is going to dare take on these difficult issues before they get out of our control? No, the answer is none. What governor and state legislator is going to have the courage to address the structural problems in their government if this is what happens to them for trying? So what we're saying is we've got to get through this idea that these things are political third rails. We've got to fix the country's problems before it gets out of our control so that we can reclaim the American idea. That's what we're trying to do. And what we're going to have to do is get through all the demagoguery and all the distortions that President Obama and his allies are trying to use to try and divide and distract the country.
Well, the liberals will say that about 60% of the budget cuts that you're proposing are going to hit low-income Americans. What's the response?
Well, I would say, first of all, we need to fix our social safety net. And spending still continues under our budget on Medicaid and these other programs. They just don't grow at the crazy pace that the president's proposing because those become unsustainable. Here's the way we look at dealing with the safety net. We want the safety net to be there for people who can't help themselves, and we want it to be there for people who are down on their luck so that they can get back on their feet, back onto lives, independence and self-sufficiency. So when we look at the safety net, we look at not treating the symptoms of poverty to make it easier to cope with and live with and to stay on. We look at the root causes of poverty so we can eradicate poverty and end the cycle of poverty.
Talk to me a little bit about the morality and the debt. Where does your Catholic faith play into the way this budget proposal is crafted?
Well, a person's faith is central to how they conduct themselves, in public and in private. So to me, using my Catholic faith, we call it the social magisterium, which is how do you apply the doctrine of your teaching into your everyday life as a lay person? To me, the principle of subsidiarity, which is really federalism, meaning government closest to the people governs best. Having a civil society of the principle of solidarity where we, through our civic organizations, through our churches, through our charities, through all of our different groups where we interact with people as a community, that's how we advance the common good, by not having big government crowd out civil society, but by having enough space in our communities so that we can interact with each other and take care of people who are down and out in our communities. Those principles are very, very important. And the preferential option for the poor, which is one of the primary tenets of Catholic social teaching, means don't keep people poor, don't make people dependent on government so that they stay stuck in their station in life. help people get out of poverty onto life of independence.